now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally and in the key battlegrounds, including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play.
It's a trap.
When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling.
What do I mean? What do you mean? All these innuendos.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. in all fairness. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans.
You were saying she had a nice ass.
We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
That the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. And I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch.
We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Get in my belly!
There have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community. Of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
Oh, nobody knows what the fuck I'm talking about!
She was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
Can you be more threatening?
She went out.
Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
Nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace.
Very well, what are you going to do?
And it's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said it would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
Are you now acknowleding that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that.
Oh my God! Who the hell
It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people.
That's not entirely accurate.
Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that
She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true.
I walk around like that bitch.
Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. He said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. Autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors.
And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives.
Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination.
Because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We don't even know if he's... Where is our president?
And just to clarify
They
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president?
do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
As commander-in-chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. And that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done, what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Not this time. No, not this time.
Vice President, now, please, I'll give you a minute here.
You'll give me what I tell you to give me.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. They sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid.
Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. You make a big deal out of something, I couldn't care less. I read where she was not black, that she put out, and then I read that she was black.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families.
We do understand each other here. You're Ditsul.
Excuse me?
Charcoal briquette, a moulignan.
What's your problem?
I think you know what my problem is.
Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger.
I have a plan. I have a plan. I have a plan.
She has a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun. She has a plan to not allow fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else. That's what her plan is until just recently. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive.
What is your plan today?
Let's start at the very beginning.
I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. I have a plan. And when I am president, we will do that for all people. Access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be, I have a plan.
Important for a lot of...
She made a mistake. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation. This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it?
I have a plan. Man